Hey everybody, it's GauntletX and welcome back to some more Magic Arena, and today we have the return of Dominaria United in the Quick Draft queues. Without further ado, let's just hop into the draft and see what we get to play with today. We've got a very solid opening pack here. There are some of the better commons in the format, like Argivian Cavalier for aggressive white strategies or defensive white strategies. Very flexible, powerful common there. Essence Scatter. This is a format that is definitely slow enough and has tons of creatures with really solid enter the battlefield effects to make counterspells like Essence Scatter quite good. And then Talus Lookout for a great value blue common. There's also some great uncommons here, particularly Urtai's Scorn, but I'd rather just take Essence Scatter as the cheaper counterspell, even if it is a bit more narrow. And the card that I'm going to take here, which is the Weatherseed Treaty. This is a fantastic card for any domain strategy in the format, and they are some of the stronger strategies. Domain is a mechanic that is going to benefit you for having as many different basic land types as possible among lands you control. So the fact that this both helps you get an off-color land with that mana ramp and mana fixing ability on Chapter 1, and then also gets the benefit of having more land types out with Chapter 3 of the saga, makes it just a really powerful card as both an enabler and a payoff all in one. And this is a format, of course, with dual lands at common that have the basic land types. So there's just a lot of great support for the domain archetype for cards like Weatherseed Treaty. So I'm going to scoop up the Weatherseed Treaty. If it weren't in this pack, I think I'd go for Argivian Cavalier, as again, it's just going to be incredible in any white deck in the format. They're two very different routes, though. The domain decks mostly overlap in basically every color except for white, and the white decks usually like to be streamlined two-color builds. So kind of two polar opposite directions we could go here, but Weatherseed Treaty is certainly the strongest card in the pack. For pick 2, we've certainly got an unfortunate follow-up to our pack 1 pick 1, as the best cards in this pack are both in white, Citizen's Arrest and Elas Il-Kor, and neither of these cards are going to be great in a domain strategy. They are both also for more streamlined two-color decks, Elas benefiting a lot from just being a black-white aristocrat strategy, and Citizen's Arrest requiring a lot of white mana, requiring double white to be cast in the first place. So neither of those are great follow-ups to the Weatherseed Treaty. We could still take one of them, as they are likely the most powerful cards in the pack. But if we want to take something that goes with the Weatherseed Treaty for a domain strategy, we're either immediately taking a dual land now, or taking a Coral Colony and trying to be one of the very multicolored Defenders-focused decks. Not a big fan of the Defender decks. I think they're just super annoying. They are some of the strongest decks in the format if you can get them to pop off, but I personally don't love playing them, so I'm going to disregard that even if it is probably the right pick, and pick between one of the white cards and a dual land here. And you know how I like to draft. I like to try to stay open and push into whatever I can get past. So I'm going to actually take Elas Il-Kor here, and that way we can go for the very multicolored domain deck, or if we get a ton of good white or black cards, try to be the black-white aristocrats strategy here. So I'll take the Elas Il-Kor over just taking a dual land, pick number 2. Very nice pick 3 here. There's a Prayer of Binding for excellent removal in white. It's also easily splashable, only requiring 1 white mana. There's also Walking Bulwark for that Defender's archetype, and a Tribute to Urborg for a black removal spell. Phyrexian Espionage also being pretty great in the format. Again, slow enough you can play these big value plays like Phyrexian Espionage. I think I'm definitely going to roll with Prayer of Binding here, because it'll fit into both of our decks really easily. If we're a black-white deck, obviously it's just a white removal spell, and if we are a domain deck, it is not hard to get a single white mana. It's much easier than getting a double white like we had on that other removal spell. So take a Prayer of Binding here, excellent removal, see where we go from there. Well, Bortuk Bone Rattle is one of the biggest, most powerful domain legends. It's a 6 mana 4/4 that's going to reanimate a creature in your graveyard when you cast it, if that creature's mana value is less than or equal to the number of basic land types among lands you control, and even if you're choosing a creature with a higher mana value than the number of basic land types, you're still putting it into your hand. So no matter what, it's a great 2-for-1, and if you immediately reanimate something, it's absolutely absurd. Vortuck Bone Rattle is one of the biggest, most powerful reasons to be in a domain strategy, and it looks like we are heading back in that direction. For pick 5 now, we've got a Mossbeard Ancient, which is a very solid card at the top end of your curve, gain you a bunch of life, give you some breathing room against those aggressive red-white strategies like the Keldon Strike team decks. So we'll take that Mossbeard Ancient, very big way to stabilize late game. We've got several fantastic options, pick 6. There's Yavimaya Iconoclast for a 2-mana 3/2 trample, just a really good rate for the mana cost in general. There's Floriferous Vinewall, which can dig pretty deep into our deck, trying to find whatever off-color of mana we need. There's a Gaia's Might, which is a huge combat trick in Domain, and there's a Sunlit Marsh for a Domain dual land, so really incredible pack. I think all of these picks would be quite solid. But I'm going to go ahead and roll with a Floriferous Vinewall. I like it a lot in these slower Domain decks because it's going to hit the board, it's going to be able to give you a chump block at least, and it's going to draw you an extra card by picking up a land, putting it into your hand. So pretty great value here, and also gives you a bit of fixing. I'll take a Floriferous Vinewall. Pack 1, pick 7. Now we are pretty safe to go ahead and scoop up our first dual land, as there is nothing in the pack. In terms of non-creature cards, I'm a particularly big fan of. The Gibbering Barricade's fine, the Battlefly Swarm's fine, Deathbloom Gardener's fine, but I'm not super excited about any of these. I much prefer mana fixing that has to do with my lands in my Domain decks. This is why I'm not a big fan of Deathbloom Gardener, because any mana fixing that is going to fix your colors and add to your basic land types is just infinitely more valuable than mana fixing that only fixes your colors like Deathbloom Gardener. So that's why I really like cards like the Weatherseed Treaty, Floriferous Vinewall, and dual lands in Domain decks, because they're upping our domain count for cards like Vortuck and the Weatherseed Treaty, while also mana fixing us. So I'm going to take the dual land here over the Deathbloom Gardener. More dual lands coming back, a Sunlit Marsh and a Geothermal Bog, and this is exactly how we want the draft pod to be for us. We are very happy to see that. I'll go ahead and take a Sunlit Marsh, since I am already doing a little bit of white, a little bit of black stuff here. And once again, beautiful draft pod for us, Idyllic Beachfront and Haunted Mire. We'll grab our first Haunted Mire over our second Beachfront. And for pack 1, pick 10, I suppose I am obligated to take the Defender card just in case they all start wheeling. I would really rather not play that, but if we get the Walking Bulwark to wheel, I will head in that direction. And it looks like it did not wheel, so that's good for us. We'll take a Scout the Wilderness here, basically the discount version of the Weatherseed Treaty. Not quite as good. This is the one that you pick up at the Dollar Tree instead of the big box store, so we'll grab the Scout the Wilderness here. Now a Bog Badger is a perfect filler card for these decks. Just a 3-mana 3/3 is always fine on curve. A Battle Rage Blessing, since we're deeper into black than blue, and a Tattered Apparition. Pack 2, pick 1 now, a bunch of great options again. There's a Rada's Firebrand. It is early enough to push more into the green-red aggro version of the Domain decks, but I do prefer the grindier, stallier ones with cards like Vortuck and Mossbeard at the top end, and that does look to be the direction we're heading in. So I'm not a super huge fan of trying to push into a more aggressive deck with the Firebrand here. Still could do it. There's Argivian Cavalier. Since we are mainly green, white, and black here, this will be a very solid roadblock, helping get multiple creatures onto the board to slow down our opponent's aggressive decks. There's a Vine Shaper Prodigy for a great 2-for-1 play. If we kick this card, we get to get a 2/2 onto the board and draw a card out of our top 3. And there's like a Shield Wall Sentinel if we want to have that Defender's backup plan with the Coral Colony. Other than that, Talus Lookout's fine, Runic Shot's fine, but I think these are the main cards to be considering. And I think I'm going to roll with Argivian Cavalier here, kind of be a nice little green-white-black hybrid version of this deck. I am much more used to doing like green-red-black, green-blue-black, but the green-white-black direction can be solid too, if that's where the cards lie, and that seems to be where things are right now in this draft pod. Pack 2, pick 2, we have Extinguish the Light for incredible removal, Destroy Evil for very efficient removal, Urborg Repossession for a very good 2-for-1 value play late in the game, just massive graveyard recursion. Excellent stuff overall out of this pack. We're still on 1 removal spell total, so I think I'm just going to take another removal spell here. I might actually go for Destroy Evil over Extinguish the Light, since if we pick up Destroy Evil, we could easily cut Battle Rage Blessing and Elas Ilkor, Tattered Apparition as well, and just kind of splash in a board tuck, be green-white as the 2 main colors, splashing in everything else off of domain lands. So I think I'll go for Destroy Evil here, move on from there. Pack 2, pick 3, since we are moving into the primary green-white direction, we can grab another Argivian Cavalier. Queen All in All is good if you're just a green-white deck that's very focused on token production, but that's not what we're going to be doing here. We are more focused on domain stuff, so another Cavalier, solid roadblock. Pack 2, pick 4, we can scoop up another Destroy Evil or guarantee that we have at least 1 Urborg Repossession in here. I think this card is very, very, very strong, so now that we have 2 removal spells at least, I am going to scoop up the Urborg Repossession for fantastic late-game recursion. Pack 2, pick 5, another fantastic removal spell with Tribute to Urborg, some more great token producers between Resolute Reinforcements and Argivian Cavalier, and a great domain splash with Nael, Avazoa Aeronaut. Check our mana curve here if I cut all the stuff I'm not a big fan of, and see how things are looking for us. Move all my non-creatures into a pile. Cut that. We might be able to push into a more aggressive strategy than what we're doing right now, and just keep taking cards like Cavalier and Resolute Reinforcements if they keep coming around. I mean, maybe we do get to go fully into that green-white Queen All-in-All deck if she wheels. Best card for the grindier domain deck is certainly Nael or Tribute to Urborg, but if we want to have the ability to pivot into something more aggressive, taking Reinforcements or Cavalier would be pretty solid here. I think we've got good enough reasons to be domainy with Bortuck and Weatherseed. We'll pick up Nael as well and go fully in that direction here. Pick 6, another Destroy Evil or another Vine Wall. Good lord, let's go. These are the kind of options we want to be able to have. I'm going to go for another Vine Wall since I've been seeing a lot of Destroy Evils and removal spells in general. Hopefully we might be able to wheel 1 or 2 of those. So take the Vine Wall here. Another Sunlit Marsh. There's also a Yavimaya Sojourner for a kind of mid-range creature in these decks. Ends up being 4 or 5 mana quite often. There's also Runic Shot, but again, that's pretty inflexible removal, only destroying tapped creatures. Not going to be able to hit anything that's sitting there with like a really good ability, messing you up. And it's not going to be able to hit any vigilant creatures, clearly. I'm going to grab another Sunlit Marsh here. Pretty excellent colors for this deck to have on our duel. Now a Tribute to Urborg, since we passed up on removal earlier, let's grab another one now. Over the Vine Wall. Could also take Miria's Outrider though, which is a very good finisher for domain decks. Because by the time you're casting a red spell in this kind of domain deck, we probably have all 5 land types. So this is a 4/4 reach that deals 5 to our opponent when it hits the board. And then we have 2 ways to bring it back between Bortuck, Bone Rattle, and Urborg Repossession. This card could single-handedly hit our opponent for like 10 if we just reanimate it once, so let's go for the Miria's Outrider, actually. I think it is just fantastic in these decks. Alright, speculate on a Shield Wall Sentinel. Don't think we're doing that, but maybe. Vine Shaper Prodigy or Urborg Repossession are both fantastic. Now that we've got an Outrider, I'm actually going to take a second Repossession here. A bunch of mediocre tortoises and turtles, which is adorable. I'll take the mediocre white creature. And there we go. Destroy Evil is a pretty incredible, flexible removal spell in this format. This is a slower format where most decks will have something with toughness 4 or greater. The only decks that won't will be like really aggressive white strategies like black-white or white-red. And those decks probably have enchantment-based removal like Prayer of Binding, so Destroy Evil has just been super main deckable in the format, so I think the bots really underdraft this card, which is pretty nice for anybody drafting white in these quick draft queues. Grab some nonsense and see what we get throughout pack number 3. Alright, we've got a second Miria's Outrider since I do have 2 Urborg Repossession and a Bortuck. I'm pretty excited about that. I think I will take it. There's also an Extinguish the Light, a Haunted Mire, and an Argivian Cavalier as the best cards for Domain, but let's scoop up our second Miria's Outrider and go for some of those big damage enter the battlefield effects. Speaking of big damage, we're definitely going to take Nishoba Brawler now. 2 mana for a creature with power equal to the number of basic land types among lands you control, and 3 toughness. So it can be like a 2 mana 5/3 trample when you have full domain, which is obviously insane, but it's really, really easy. It's trivial easy, even to have this card be a 2 mana 2/3 trample, which is already good. And then it's not hard to get it to like 3/3 trample stats for 2 mana. So Brawler is just so undercosted for how strong it is that it's very easily to pick. Speaking of cards that are incredibly strong, Techiova's Steward of Tides is an incredible win condition once you have 7 lands. You just need 6 lands on the board, play your Tachiova, play your 7th land, and boom, that is going to be a 3/3 flying haste land. And she's just going to make sure every draw you have for the rest of the game, as long as she's on the board, is a good draw, because every land in your deck is a 3/3 flyer. Every non-land is still whatever it was going to be anyway. Techiova is an incredible finisher. We'll be taking her. The cards we would like to wheel are specifically Sprouting Goblin, but I highly doubt this wheels. If it does, I will be incredibly happy because this is fantastic in domain strategies. When you kick this, you get to search your library for any of your dual lands, reveal them, and put them into your hand. So Sprouting Goblin is fantastic for these decks for fixing. But there's also Destroy Evil, which, judging by the bots so far, is pretty likely to come back. For pack 3, pick 4, we've got Mossbeard Ancient versus Choking Miasma mostly. This is really good if your domain deck is not good at blocking and slowing down those aggressive strategies. I think we're doing okay at it. We have 2 Argivian Cavalier, a Bog Badger, 2 solid 2-drops that could be trading off, and then some Vine Walls just for chumping. So I think we're doing okay at blocking early aggro where we don't need the little miniature board wipe. So I'll take a Mossbeard Ancient again here. I don't want to load up too much on cards like Urborg Repossession because they do get a lot worse the more copies you have, because then you're opening yourself up to drawing hands where you have like 2 of these in your opening hand, which would be pretty terrible. So I think I would rather scoop up a removal spell here. Cut Down is the more efficient removal spell, but Tribute to Urborg is the one that can kill a larger variety of things later in the game. I suppose we don't have a particularly high instant and sorcery count, so it'll be quite some time until this can kill like a 4/4. So I suppose I should just go for the raw efficiency of Cut Down. Phyrexian Warhorse is fine. It's kind of like the Cavalier's big brother. Much more mana, but it does give you 2 creatures off 1 card and a pretty flexible sacrifice ability, since it does come with that Soldier 2 sacrifice to its effect. So Warhorse is fine. We're definitely not a Cult Conscript deck. Great card for aggressive black strategies, but we are not an aggressive black strategy. Now we can take an Urge, Spawn of Turg, very nice surveilling throughout the game to set up your draws. Can gain you a bunch of life late game as well. And when you're surveilling later in the game, you're usually milling a bunch of lands and turning this into a win condition, making it a really big, beefy creature. So take that. Another Urborg Repossession. Again, I don't really want to play 3 of these, so I guess I'll just take a Writhing Necromass. And unfortunately, looks like we're not going to get any duels in the final pack, so we took them a little bit too low this draft, I think. But we have double Vine Wall, Scout, and Weatherseed Treaty, so we're doing okay on our fixing without the dual lands in this deck. Take another Bog Badger here. Eerie Soul Tender is another solid Graveyard Recursion card. Scoop that up. It also combos really well with our Writhing Necromass that we have. Destroy Evil came back. Don't know if I'll be running 3 copies, but I think it would be perfectly reasonable to. Alright, so we have 33 cards and 4 lands, so 29 cards in this deck, so we need to make like 5 cuts. 6 cuts, I guess. Let's see. Nothing in our sideboard looks particularly good. We could play Snare Spinner if I need more 2-mana creatures. I don't think I need them that badly, though. Sort our piles out manually so that Arena doesn't lag out, like it tends to do in the deck builder. Might have to cut Urg for that difficult double black here. Tachiova, single blue, easy splash. Miria's Outrider, single red, easy splash. Urg, though, if I push down to green-white at the core, double black's a little difficult. So maybe we cut mostly black cards here and focus on green-white. And have black just as a splash for cut down, Urborg Repossession, Bone Rattle. So we could do something like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cards getting cuts. 3 black sources without even running a swamp, which is great. That means 4 black sources with 1 swamp in the deck, which is probably where we would want to be if we cut all of those. We still have 4 2-mana creatures, 4 3-mana creatures. That's plenty good at stopping early aggro. And then we have tons of ways to grind out the kill late game. These big Mossbeard Ancients, Miria's Outriders with Bortux and Urborg Repossessions. Tachiova is a huge win condition. Feels pretty great to me. I think we are just going to cut the black package in general. And then we need to cut at least 1 more card. We could cut 2 more and play 18 lands in this deck, since we are grinding it out to these big 7-8 mana plays. Tachiova wants us to hit 7 lands and then some. Mossbeard Ancient wants us to hit 7 lands. With Urborg Repossession, we want to be able to kick this and then immediately recast something. And if we're kicking it to pick up a Miria's Outrider, then we'll need 8 mana total to kick this and recast a Miria's Outrider. So we have some really high mana value plays late in the game. So I could definitely see cutting 2 non-land cards even if we want to do that. I think I'll go for one of the Bog Badgers here. Probably a Banalish Sleeper as the other cut. I do have some Argivian Cavaliers. There could be board states where that kicker ability is pretty good. Worst case scenario, trading off into something that's up to 3 toughness. Actually, a pretty solid blocker. Maybe I don't cut one of those. Maybe I cut one of our Destroy Evils since we've got triple. Still have 4 removal spells total. 2 Destroy Evil, 1 Cut Down, 1 Prayer of Binding. We do have that option also of just playing 17 lands, because it's like we have 17 lands plus 2 mana ramp cards that search out any basic, plus 2 Vine Walls that also pick up a land when they hit the board. So maybe with double Vine Wall and double Rampant Growth cards, we just stick at 17 lands, even with the really high curve. It's probably okay. I suppose I'll do that. I think I'll call it a deck there in terms of the non-land cards, but we will want to adjust our mana base and make sure Arena did a good job with the auto-suggest. So now we just sort by the colors, how badly we need them. And I'm pretty sure it's doing a pretty great job for us. Our Weatherseed Treaty and Scout the Wilderness are going to be excellent in this deck. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 green cards. That's definitely the most important color. The repossessions, we don't really want to cast these unless we're kicking them, so that's kind of like 13 green cards. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 white cards. So 13, then 7, then 4, then 2, and 2. So 2 blue cards, 2 red cards. Probably just want 2 sources of each of those since we have multiple ways to search them out. So that's 2 mountains for the double Outrider and a beachfront and an island for the double blue cards. When it comes to black now, we've got 4 black cards total. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 black sources. We have the 1 swamp to tutor out and 3 black dual lands. That feels pretty good to me. And then just make sure that our counts on our main colors are pretty good. We only have 7 green sources right now, so I probably just want to add an 8th green source over anything else here. 8 green sources total, And that's still 5 white sources, including 2 that we can search out with our mana ramp cards. So I think that's where we want to be here. Maybe even cut a mountain for another white source, and then we kind of just have to search out a mountain with one of our ramp effects, but that's still 3 ways to get a mountain into play. Double Vine Wall. Outrider is very much a late game play, so it's probably fine. Yeah, I mean, I don't have a lot of white cards I have to play early. It's just the Cavaliers and the Sleeper, but that's still 3. Yeah, let's up a Plains and subtract a mountain, but still have at least one of every basic land type to make our rampant growth effects as good as possible. I think that's how we want the mana base, so I think finish up the mana base and call it a deck there. Alright, here's a look at our finished deck list for today. It's going to be another 5-color domain deck, primarily on green and white as the main 2 colors this time around. Decent amount of black, and then just a splash of red and a splash of blue. So we've got very good early game this time around when it comes to just blocking some of the more aggressive strategies. The Cavaliers being our best roadblock, but we also have Bog Badger, Vanillish Sleeper, and Brawler to trade off early. We've got a couple Floriferous Vine Walls to help fix our mana, set up our land draws, Scout the Wilderness, and the Weather Seed Treaty to find whatever color we need. So pretty great mana fixing there to make up for the lack of duels with only 4 dual lands in the deck. And then we just have a bunch of great removal to stay alive, Prayer of Binding, triple Destroy Evil and a Cut Down, and tons of fantastic ways to win the game. We've got some gigantic Mossbeard Ancients to beat down with while stabilizing with that life gain. We've got Tachiova to send a bunch of flying lands into our opponent's face. We have Miria's Outriders, which shoot our opponent for a ton when they hit the board, and tons of ways to recur those with Bortuk Bone Rattle and double Urborg Repossession. So we have a lot of resiliency, a lot of redundancy in the late game, so we can really close out those games, and lots of good ways to trade off in the early game to help stay alive. Seems like a very solid domain deck, and I'm super happy to see how it does as we head into the gameplay. Here we are on the play for game 1. This is a little bit of an awkward keep. We've got that Prayer of Binding to stop our opponent's first scary threat, and a Bog Badger to get started, but we certainly need to draw some more colors, and Sunlit Marsh being our first draw is an excellent start to that. We've got our Bortuk Bone Rattle mana now, and we are playing against another domain deck. I expect that to happen a lot in Quick Draft. I think this format is, like many formats, much better in Premier Draft than Quick Draft. Because in Quick Draft, really, if you wanted to, every single player could be playing Domain, but in Premier Draft, if you're fighting against human players for a Domain deck, you're not going to have a great time there. Our opponent might just be green-black, though. I mean, they've only played Forests, Haunted Mires, and Swamps, so they may not be Domain. Alright, we're doing pretty alright for now. Our Bog Badger just gets to chip in. They've played a 0-2 and a 1-3. So, while our hand is slower, that's pretty fine for us, because our opponent isn't putting any pressure down, they're just playing some blockers. They're just going to 1-for-1 Urborg Repossession, picking up the Vine Wall. They either really need a different color of mana, or they're a little impatient there, and it looks like it's probably the former, because they did find an island off of that. Alright, there's a mountain for domain land type number 4. And there's the island for our opponent. Dropping Territorial Marrow. Okay. Think I'd rather Destroy Evil than Prayer of Binding, since Prayer exiles any non-land permanent. Destroy only hits a toughness 4 or greater creature, so it's much more narrow, even if it is much cheaper. And I am going to be greedy here and just go for as much value as possible with the Bortuk Bone Rattle, because we are behind on cards right now. They have 6 in hand, we have 4. So I'm going to make sure to get as much value out of all these cards as possible. I'm not going to play Bone Rattle until I can pick up a creature, even if that ends up being just picking up a Mossbeard Ancient. Since it won't reanimate the Mossbeard Ancient, it would just put it into my hand. Alright, so they have 4 out of 5 land types. They're definitely also a domain deck. Could just exile their Gibbering Barricade since the Bog Badger can't attack into it, and it can sacrifice their Vine Walls and Snare Spinners for extra card draw. So this could be a decent play for the card advantage war in the long game, and I think I'll just go for it here. Okay, Miria's Outrider is the draw. That's a really good card to reanimate with Bone Rattle, but I think I'm playing Mossbeard Ancient for now, being mana efficient and playing the 7 mana card when we've got the 7 mana down. We'll play Outrider next turn, though. We'll definitely play it before we play Bone Rattle. There's their own Mossbeard Ancient. Alright, fair enough. There's the beachfront for all land types. We send in the Ancient, offer the trade. The trade is not accepted. They're going to go down to 14, so they're going to go down to 9 when we play Outrider. Which is phenomenal. And now that we have the full 5 domain, Bone Rattle immediately reanimates the Miria's Outrider. Sojourner. Alright, they had a lot of big beef still in their hand there, so the Prayer of Binding looking pretty bad here. Attack in for a lot. That is aggressive. We might be able to just kill them on the crackback if they kill our Miria's Outrider. Send in the Ancient and the Outrider here. I guess I send in everybody because they're going to block Outrider with Sojourner, so Bog Badger's somewhat safe. Alright, and they die since they killed the Outrider. That is what I expected here. Is that Ancient just gets in for enough damage that Bone Rattle Outrider kills them. That's the plan. Alright. Don't think I played that out perfectly. I obviously had a plan in mind with the Prayer of Binding on the Gibbering Barricade. I was worried that with the amount of 2-for-1 little creatures they played, like Vine Wall plus a Sapperling from Weatherseed Treaty, they were going to grind out a lot of value with that barricade potentially. But I should have realized I had enough beef in my hand that if they wanted to grind out late game value, we could just kill them with our bigger creatures. So we should have kept the binding for a potential larger play of theirs later. So that was somewhat of a misplay there, but overall, our deck still just jammed out with some incredible stuff for us and finds us the victory there. We're starting this draft off 1-0. Here we are now for game number 2. I think this hand's pretty unkeepable in a domain deck, just 2 forests, no other lands or fixing. Especially since there's basically 2 7-mana cards in it as well. Techiova doesn't really want to do anything till turn 7, so let's mulligan that. Okay, well, we've got mana fixing this time, but it's still a mono-green hand, which is certainly awkward. I either get rid of a land or 7-drop here, I think. Maybe I get rid of the sleeper. Yeah, let's get rid of the sleeper. This is basically a 4-land hand. That's 4 out of 7 for Mossbeard. Probably fine. We have no guarantee Vine Wall can find a white source specifically for the Banal Sleeper. But we know we can Vine Wall into Bog Badger and then Ancient late game. So Swamp, Crystal Grotto, Clockwork, Drawbridge from our opponent. That is a defender that can tap a creature down for 3 mana. Do find a white source. Probably the most important to take here. Pretty awkward to see the mountain and island as well. That means we are not going to get those for some time. Yeah, we do have quite a few more white cards than blue and red cards. Night of Dawn's Light, turn 3. Well, now we've drawn into Sunlit Marsh. Guess that's not completely redundant since it does hit our black source. Okay, drop a Bog Badger. So our opponent is white, blue, and black at minimum. This Night of Dawn's Light is going to be a pretty big problem, so we're going to want to cut that down sometime soon. For now, I don't think they can really afford to just spend all their turns buffing it up. So we're just going to take 2 a couple turns in a row. Phyrexian Espionage to draw 2. And they will play land for turn. It's an idyllic beachfront. We've drawn into an Outrider. And we know we've got a mountain on the bottom of our library, so that could be very awkward. Need to draw into one of our rampant growth effects for that. Don't want a Prayer of Binding the Night when I can use this on bigger cards later. Would much rather cut down since it's more narrow. Might chump with Vine Wall on their next attack because we do have 2 Urborg repossessions in this deck and a Bortug Bone Rattle, and it would be nice to be able to reanimate a Vine Wall to dig for a red source if we draw into one of those cards. So I should probably chump with the Vine Wall at some point. No attacks. Interesting. They're just going to hold off as a defender here, as a blocker. Okay. Well, then I guess we're chilling. I'm pretty good to chill with my opponent. I've got an excellent 7 mana play, and I've got a good removal spell for whatever giant creature they're planning on playing later in the game. Checking out their graveyard. Tribute to Urborg, since they have a sorcery in the grave. Yep. I cannot stop that from happening, but now that they're tapped out of the 1 and a white, I can cut down the Night of Dawn's Light. All right. There's an Impulse for some excellent card draw. Pick the best card out of the top 4 of their library and put it into their hand. There's a Crystal Grotto. Scrying 1 again. Blight Piles, they're just like the full-on Esper Defenders deck. Defenders deck is basically like if they draw a Wingmantle Chaplain, we're going to lose. That is kind of the mythic uncommon of the format. But otherwise, I think we'll have a decent time. Might have to exile this Blight Pile sometime soon. For now, it's going to be 2 damage a turn maximum. I'll let it stay for now. I'm going to turn away from a Mossbeard Ancient. Just going to gain me 5 and then just start rolling over those. I guess they can just keep tapping it with the drawbridge. They probably have removal in their hand as well. 4 cards in hand. Likely an Essence Scatter, I would say. They're definitely a blue deck with Impulse, Espionage. Essence Scatter would be a very safe assumption, so I should at least try to Cavalier first before I Ancient. Because even Cavalier is big enough to attack into their defenders, since it has the Enlist ability. So it should draw an Essence Scatter or a removal spell from our opponent. Urtai's Scorn is the counterspell. Alright. Take a bit of Blight Pile damage here to save this Prayer of Binding. Another Crystal Grotto for our opponent. Scry to the top. Go to our turn, and let's see their second counterspell, because I can't play around it now. I have no other viable plays, since we shoved our mountain on the bottom with Vine Wall. Resolves at least, but likely to die now that it's hit the board. Our best case scenario is that it just keeps getting tapped by their Clockwork Drawbridge. Yep, there's the Destroy Evil. This is a matchup we really need to draw into Bortuk, Bone Rattle, or Urborg repossessions. We can definitely win if we do. So there's 3 incredible draws for us in this matchup, but we need some of our good, like, 2-for-1 value grinded out cards. And there we go, there's one of them. So they just Impulse. They probably did hit a counterspell, but again, we can't really play around an Essence Scatter because I have no other creatures I can cast. Yep, good Impulse was good. Pass the turn. Repossessions are now even more live. We hit either of our repossessions, we pick up Bortuk plus Mossbeard, and really get ahead in card advantage. Should play this Swamp, so if I hit a repossession, then I can repossess and cast a black spell in the same turn. So 1, 2, 3, and then 5 mana. 1 land away from repossession plus Bone Rattle. So yeah, that is definitely our out. Our 2 Urborg repossessions, because we do have the mana if I just play this forest next turn to do that fully. Alright, if they had a better creature, they would have played it by now. I think we just need to hope they don't draw into a better creature at this point. Gotta stop this Blight Pile damage. So now we're taking like 3 a turn, starts to speed things up. Extinguish the Light, the Blight Pile. So they've got Urborg Repossession in hand. Only have 1 other creature in their grave? Yeah, they only have 1 other creature in their grave, so they must have Repossession in hand then. Destroy Evil is a pretty bad draw. It doesn't do anything against their deck right now. Still not sure I agree with their Extinguish the Light line here. I mean, it's definitely fine, but it's a 1-for-1, it's not a 2-for-1. Because they had to spend their removal spell to get their creature engraved, so they turned Repossession into a 1-for-1 instead of a 2-for-1 overall. I guess I can destroy Evil Knight of Dawn's Light if they buff it too much. Oh, come on, Arena. Goblet needs a repossession. Can I have 1 of 2 in the top 20 cards? Let's see. Need to hit it pretty soon now that they have Knight of Dawn's Light and Blight Pile. Just buff it the once, keep their mana up for Drawbridge plus Blight Pile. Pretty bad for us with the Destroy Evil in hand. Well, game's starting to look very over. Pretty sure we're just dead because they can just drawbridge the brawler. These draws were just way too bad this game. Again, this is a matchup with Urborg Repossession that's super winnable. Because a kicked repossession at any point in this game would have put us miles ahead. Then we have a Bone Rattle and an Ancient in our hand. So I just play an Ancient, and then if they kill that, I Bone Rattle it again. Alternatively, I just play an Ancient, then I Bone Rattle a Cavalier, which is incredible. But it is what it is. I guess I'm not dead yet, because if they go for lethal on board, then I can destroy Evil the Knight. So I do have one last draw step to hit Urborg Repossession. And still potentially turn the game around. If they don't have a counter spell in their hand, Urborg Possession would still probably get us there. And we just hit another Sunlit Marsh. Alright. Rough stuff there. Real bad matchup for our Destroy Evils. And we hit some awkward mana for Niall and Mirror's Outrider. We didn't hit any of our mana fixing. I mean, we hit one Vine Wall, but we didn't hit any of the Rampant Growth effects for those two cards. And didn't hit any of the best card in this matchup, which are our Urborg Repossessions. At least we hit a Bone Rattle, which is good in this matchup. But I think they did have the counterspell for it. Yeah, they had the Protect the Negotiators perfectly timed off the Impulse, which was pretty brutal. They cast 2 counterspells all game. One of them was incredibly well timed. Alright, things just lined up pretty poorly for us there, but I think it was a winnable matchup. I think we just drew a little worse than our opponent overall. 1-1 heading into game number 3. Here we are on the play for game 3. Another 2-lander. I'm really good at drawing 2-landers today. Don't think I want to mulligan again. That's all our big stuff. I'm going to keep, though. We need 1 land to get to Bog Badger. And then we can miss a few land drops because of how powerful our late game plays are. We certainly can't hit blue cards right now. Can't do that and survive. Alright, so we've got 18 great draws. It's about half our deck. A little more than half our deck, because any land's an incredible draw. So there's 14 lands left. And our 2 Vine Walls are great draws, our Weatherseed Treaty is a great draw, and our the other Rampant Growth effect's a great draw. So we did hit 1 land, so now there are 16 great draws out of 30. So still slightly more than 50-50 that we hit something pretty much perfect. The Artillery Blast from the Bog Badger. Our opponent is ramping like nobody's business. This is wild. I could destroy Evil this Weatherseed Treaty. Could also repossess a single Badger, but that doesn't feel like where it's at. I'm going to get rid of a 1/1 and stop them from dealing an extra 1, 2, 3. +3/+3 trample minimum. We've got Relic plus Treaty. Yeah, this is not good, I would say. I think I'd rather just destroy Evil a creature of theirs. Could just destroy Evil whatever they put the +X/+X onto later. Well, we're probably dead. Mirror's Outrider in the green-black deck, they probably have multiple repossessions and Vortex to just demolish my soul. But we'll find out soon enough. Alright, we're now one land away from going ham. Another Relic of Legends. Hopefully that's redundant for them. Nope. They do need that 8 mana this turn. Alright, there we go. We got there. Cross our fingers and hope to all that is holy that they don't have an Urborg repossession. Otherwise, this game is wildly over. Well, that's a definite yes. Bortug Boner, that's not as bad for us as a repossession. Because they don't even have the domain to immediately put it on board. Plus it only gets one of them instead of two. It's a big deal. So now I've got time to drop a Mossbeard Ancient, gain a bunch of life. Fires of Victory, excellent card. Kill our 3/3 and draw a card, very nice 2-for-1, putting them ahead in card advantage. They pass the turn, there's another Outrider. So we could be on the 5,000 Miria's Outriders plan. This seems legit. Let's get some damage in with Mossbeard Ancient. Boom! And the Outrider plan's very real now. Put them to 6. We've got Repossession, Outrider, and a Bortuck engrave for the Repossession. So we Repossession an Outrider and a Bortuck. Play an Outrider, and then Bortuck an Outrider later if we need to. Another Fires of Victory, kicked. Very, very, very good card. Another 2-for-1 removal spell for our opponent. There's Miria's Outrider. Put us to 11. Hit us for 5 if they want, but they've got to worry about this Mossbeard Ancient coming in. Probably need to double block it, and then I can Destroy Evil one of their cards to trample over for 3. Destroy Evil off the top is lethal. This is going to be incredible. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep, Destroy Evil off the top is certainly lethal. What a draw here. Trample for 3. And drop another Outrider. There you go. Alright. Pretty lucky draw on that last turn. Solidly lucky draws throughout the game. We didn't miss too many land drops there. Again, I mean, I did the math and we were at like above a coin flip on most of our draw steps to hit a land or a mana ramp spell of some kind, so the keep was probably a little bit overly greedy, but definitely worked out in the end. We did have pretty much all of our strongest cards in the hand if we could get there, and we did get there, so win the game in the end. We are now 2-1 as we head into Game 4. Here we are now for Game 4. Definitely can't keep a mono white hand. This I can certainly keep, but it's awkward. Actually, I don't know if I can keep this either. None of our fixing again. 2 white cards. These green cards are 7 mana apiece. Okay, and this is the best hand we've drawn so far, but that's not saying a lot. I'd actually rather draw Repossession first. Alright. Ooh, I mean, I know this deck isn't the ideal domain deck in terms of its mana base, but we have been hitting some real bad hands and draws, mana-wise. There we go. This will be our first time being able to cast a mana ramp card, which is great. No, Artillery Blast my dork. If they do that, I guess I just Weather Seed Tree. I was gonna Cavalier here. I guess I still have nothing I'm ramping into, so yeah, probably Cavalier while they're tapped out of Essence Scatter. Yeah, they are just blue-white, it looks like for now. Now they could have Urtai's Scorn to counter any spell. But that would be the only thing that could counter this Weather Seed Treaty, because if they have Protect the Negotiators, I've got the extra mana. So Impulse is the play. Really don't like the prospect of starting 2 cards down against a blue deck, thanks to a Mold of 5 here. Certainly have to draw pretty incredibly here. Grab my black source. Four black cards, 2 red cards. There are 3 more black sources in this deck, though. So it'll be 4 black sources. Yeah, if I take them out, there's still 4 black sources in the deck. For the 4 black cards. Versus 1 mountain for the 2 red cards. Well, there's a Mossbeard Ancient if we find some mana. Now Cavalier just trades into 2 1/1s. That's kind of a roadblock. I'm gonna buff a 1/1 with the Weather Seed Treaty. So if they do have a removal spell at instant speed here, they don't just like blow up the Cavalier and stop all the damage. Alright, we'll kick a Scout the Wilderness for a swamp now. Do it post-combat to see if they do use a removal spell or a trick of some kind. Alright, very, very happy to have buffed the 1/1. We get a Destroy Evil out of their hand on a token. I'm incredibly into that. A little surprised they wouldn't just take the 5, save the Destroy Evil, because they know I'm Domain. They know I'll have something big. There's a Micromancer. They must have more removal in their hand. Micromancer picks up a 1 mana instant or sorcery. They don't have one. Odds are they do have one, but it's already in their hand. So like a Shore Up here for +1/+1 hexproof, untap a creature or something. Our opponent's always got that 1 and a blue up. They're a blue-white deck. That archetype doesn't really have any spells that cost more than 5 mana, and they already have 6 lands total, so as soon as they hit land 7, they will literally never tap out of Essence Scatter. So I think I have to just go for Ancient. I mean, I'm not under any pressure. I can just chill, I guess. But, I mean, the longer we give them, the more likely they are to have the Essence Scatter. It's like, if they have it already, they'll have it 4 turns from now. And if they don't have it already, I'm just giving them more draw steps to hit it. I don't know, I think the main argument to not cast Mossbeard Ancient is maybe we'll draw another creature. If we don't draw another creature, this plays pretty poorly. So now they could have the 3 mana counterspell up or an Essence Scatter. Just pass through, hold the Sunlit Marsh in case I hit a Techova. Alright, Let's get that shore up out of their hand. I should have blocked with one more 1/1 just in case of the shore up. Oh god, okay, well I guess it's good I didn't block with another 1/1 because take up the shield is so much worse for me. And even worse if I had blocked with another 1/1 because that's indestructible. Oh, destroy evils. We do get to blow up the Micromancer now, I guess. But I want to draw more creatures currently. Tap out. Now if I tap out for Mossbeard Ancient, not only do I still run to the counterspell with like the best creature in my deck, not the best, but one of the best creatures in my deck, I also don't have the mana to destroy evil, and then I just take 4 to the face or lose a 1/1. Alright, hopefully they have the counterspell that counters any spell instead of just creatures and they use it on destroy evil. They don't. Alright, cut down is good. Well, I guess I'm never going to draw another creature, so we'll just do this and get it countered. There's no counterspell! Oh my god, okay. Well, they're a blue-white deck and I saw Essence Scatter mana like all game, so... I don't feel incredibly bad about holding that, but obviously it would have been better to just play it ASAP. You could try to block the Ancient with 7 toughness. Oh my god, Urborg Repossession? So now we just attack it and we don't care what happens? This way I don't have to destroy evil in response to a quadruple block. Whoa. Artillery Blast? It's 3 damage plus Phalanx for 4. Would I rather save this or repossession immediately? I can still repossession my smaller cards. I'll save this. Seems good value. So now I can repossession my other 2 creatures and play the Brawler this turn. I could pick up the Weatherseed Treaty too. I forgot this can hit any permanent. So I can pick up a Weatherseed Treaty, which is wild. Alright, now we've got a ton of trampling power. Join forces to send a message and scoop them up. We are now 3-1 in today's quick draft. I think that was our Mold of 5 game as well. So really excellent stuff from the deck yet again. Definitely some minor misplays there. Again, I think all of the misplays today, like, I've had reasoning for the lines that I've been taking, which is the important part, but they certainly haven't been panning out perfectly, like playing around the counterspell. That's that game. Alright, this is the best mana we've drawn so far, I think. Pretty happy about this hand. We've got all 5 colors on turn 4. If I draw any land now, I get to play an Outrider on turn 4. We are against red-white, one of the most aggressive... Oh, red-white-black. Alright, well that slows them down a little bit just naturally, since they need time to... fix their mana at times, or draw the right colors. Okay, so I already have a blue source, already have 2 white sources, already have 1 black source. Let's grab another green for these double green Mossbeards. And since we have more green cards than anything else. Alright, nice. Real happy with how things are curving out right now. Alright, this is not a maximum value Miria's Outrider, because I don't have a black source out yet, but I think it's still better to play it now than just play a Sunlit Marsh and wait on it. Ooh, Fires of Victory, get rid of the Miria's Outrider. At least the Fires of Victory was not kicked, so they didn't draw a card and get the 2-for-1. Okay, well, we could just top deck another Outrider, and this one will be full value. Boop. Boop, I say. Boop. Land 7, let's go. Drawing like an absolute champion right now. It's a 7-power creature when they're at 7 life. And that's just gonna end the game. A very quick victory for game number 5. We are now 4-1 heading into round 6. And here we are for game 6. We definitely need to draw a land, but if we do, the Weather Seed Treaty with the Brawler is going to be excellent. It'll ramp into the Mossbeards and give us the white source for Cavalier. Any lands are good draws. Any cards that find lands, like Florifer's Vine Wall, are also good draws. I think I'm going to play Brawler first still. I can play Vine Wall next turn even if I don't top deck a land, and then use the land that I draw off of the Vine Wall for my land for turn. We didn't draw land, so we dropped Vine Wall. Find Haunted Mire, that's very good. And send in for 3. Now I can Weather Seed Treaty next turn. There's an Argivian Cavalier from our opponents. They can get the big block on the Brawler, and we hit a land for turn, which is beautiful. Now I can land for turn plus Weather Seed Treaty, be at 5 lands. Full Domain. Yeah, feels pretty good. So I have full Domain and I have double green for the Mossbeards. I could trade into the Cavalier Trample Over for 2 here. I don't like super love it, but I don't really have any combat tricks in this deck to make it so that the Brawler can like win a combat in the future. It's always just going to trade off when it attacks, unless I wait for the big +5/+5. But I can just play the Argivian Cavalier and then give +5/+5 to it or the token and still get my full damage from that. So we'll just cash in the Brawler here to clear out their board a bit. They've dropped an Automatic Librarian to scry a little bit and an Urborg Repossession to pick up the Cavalier of theirs. Wingmantle Chaplain. That is the mythic S-tier uncommon of the format. If you draft a Defender's deck around that, you can do some disgusting things. Cavalier is already big enough to attack and trade into either of these. Let's buff the Sapperling. Then enlist. Send those in. Okay. They're down to 11. The 1 mana away from a Mossbeard Ancient. If I Banalish Sleeper and kick it, all I can do here is kill a 1/1 bird. I don't get to get rid of the Wingmantle Chaplain, which is the very scary card. It gives them a 1/1 bird every time they play a defender. And it's really good with Urborg Repossession style cards. Probably still just run it out. I mean, I only have 2 1/1s, so 2 1/1s and a 3/1 is still not a good aggressive board. Yeah, I guess I just hold on to it. In case we can find a better board state for it. 4 Tuck Bone Rattle. Reanimate a Librarian. Well, now I've got to destroy evil target at least. So that is solid. Let's cut down for the chaplain. Just need a land, though, to really get attacking in, so we just hold on to the cut down and pass. Use it in response to them, like, casting another defender. Okay, beautiful. Do they have a second Wingmantle Chaplain? Got a Walking Bulwark, alright. That's scary too. That lets them start turning all of their defenders into beef. Only at sorcery speed, but does let them get attacking in with the defenders. There we go, there's land 7. Time to start slamming down some Mossbeard Ancients and trying to close this game out. Trying to break through their board state of defenders. If they find an Urborg repossession, like a second one, we're in a really bad spot. Oh god. Yeah, this is the problem with Wingmantle Chaplain in this format. Is that there's Urborg repossessions to bring it back from grave. There's Tolarian Geysers to bounce it back to your hand when it's on the board. Oh, thank god. Okay, so at least now we can exile it forever. And they can't reanimate it anymore, even with the Bortuck in their hand. We definitely do that. Instead of playing another Mossbeard Ancient, because this thing is just so deadly. Like, it's already reanimating 2 birds. Or it's already spitting out 2 birds. Then they play Defender next turn, there's another bird, it dies, they bring it back. Play it again, that's 4 birds or something. I kind of want to just play another Mossbeard and then prayer it later. They're at 6 right now. 14 trample damage is such a big deal. There's nothing in their grave to Bortuck, so they're just going to play a Cavalier and a Bulwark here. Get another bird, yeah. I guess I do Mossbeard. Oof. There's the Extinguish for the Mossbeard. At least now we still have a 7/7 Trampler, instead of just having nothing the other way. There's an Urborg repossession for us to use on our double Mossbeard. Okay. So now we get to send this thing in, trade with the majority of their board, exile their Wingmantle Chaplain, and then just repossess 2 Mossbeard Ancients. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Kill everything in the sky, and let them keep their defenders. If I Prayer of Binding the 3 power creature, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, it still dies. So yeah, we'll do that. Urborg Repossession is such a wild card. It's been so important in a lot of these games. So now they're going to Bortuck back a Cavalier, which is kind of annoying, but fine. I can still hold up Prayer Binding, use it at instant speed in response to a Bulwark. Alright, and they scoop them up. Wingmantle Chaplain gets exiled. They're like, okay, that'll be game. That'll get rid of all of their graveyard recursion shenanigans with that card. And we are now 5-1. Quite the positive win rate no matter what happens, but we'll see how far we can take it. See if we can't get a 7-win run here heading into round number 7. Here we are for game number 7 with that turn 2 Nishoba Brawler. If you've ever watched LSV draft this format, he has a Nishoba Brawler policy, where if he has 2 lands and a Nishoba Brawler, he never mulligans. Which is kind of funny. I think I actually mulliganed earlier with 2 lands and a Nishoba Brawler, but it's because it was double forest. I could immediately cut down the Faith Bonder, but I can also just wait a little tiny bit. Alright, well, opponent's getting some great value with that for Phyrexian Rager. I was going to say, not good enough value to throw away the Faith Bonder here, but definitely good value. Just going to keep curving out. We'll drop a Cavalier. Pass the turn. Probably should have went for attack plus cut down. Could have gotten a 2-for-1 there. It's not like a super good one because neither of their creatures matter too much. But I probably should have done that. Spooky Faith Bonder. Alright, 4 mana. Now I can Cavalier plus cut down, which feels great. So these can both attack in freely. I like how we're just an aggro deck this game. We have a 3/3 trample, 2 2/2s, and 2 1/1s on the board right now. Alright, Sengir Connoisseur is no problem at all. We've got the Destroy Evil for that. One or more other creatures die, it gets +1/+1 counters. So if I cut down right now, then it'll be a 4/4 and I can Destroy Evil it when I untap. I could also cut down and Destroy Evil in the same turn, but I can clear out 2 blockers this way. Let's get aggro, sure. Screw it. Got double repossession if anything dies. Good lord. They are down to 4. Phyrexian Vivisector for a 2/2. Twinferno. Uh-oh. What are they doubling up? Double up their next instant or sorcery spell this turn. Probably double removal spell? Ooh. Double Bone Splinters. So they have to sack a creature at least to blow up 2 of mine. But they don't have to sack 2 creatures at least. Banalish Sleeper, does that just kill them? Not quite. But it's pretty good. It's a pretty good draw. But it does just kill them, because I can sack the Sleeper. I was defaulting to sacking a 1/1 token, but if I sack the Sleeper, I just attack for 4 with the other creatures, so it does. Alright, an opponent realized it even a millisecond before I did. They just insta-scooped there, and we are now 6-1, 1 win away from 7 wins, and no matter what, we're up in gyms out of this quick draft. Excellent spot to be as we head into the final boss. And here we are for the final boss with 2 extra rounds in the chamber. Well, no, 1 extra round. Our opponent takes a mulligan down to 6. Not a horrible mulligan, and just earlier today we won the game off of a mulligan to 5, so not going to think too hard about the advantage that provides us. They are mono red for now, but they drop a salvaged mana worker, which is going to help them fix their mana here. I'm going to drop this Bog Badger nice and early. Since we are on the play, we can leverage that to get some extra damage in before they can play a big enough creature to trade into it on blocks, potentially. Yep, there's an amplifier. They just have a 1-3 and a 1-2. Badger is going to get in here, and then we can Scout the Wilderness. Unfortunately, not going to get any 1-1s out of the Scout the Wilderness, but we need it to get the white source in the first place, so we can't spend the white kicker regardless. Alright, this is a strange double block, but fine by me. Let's grab... I should hold up a cut down. There we go. Let's grab a white source. And pass the turn. Goblin Picker. Now they could double block and kill the Bog Badger, but I can cut down in response to the double block, so I think I want to hold that up rather than casting it right now to try to get their whole board cleared. Alright, they are just going to take the damage, then we drop a Nishoba Brawler, holding up a cut down and a Destroy Evil. They are still stuck on just 2 lands, and they're just going to scoop them up. Really bad mana issues for our opponent. They're stuck on mono-colored, plus stuck on just 2 lands. Part of that was kind of the one decision that really happened that game, which was that they double blocked my Badger. I guess they just like miscounted or something and thought they could kill it, but couldn't. And then they lost their mana worker without even killing my Bog Badger, which is a huge deal because keeps them off their second color, and they didn't even kill anything, so pretty rough time for our opponent there overall. Some bad luck and a pretty unfortunate double block play, so I guess we will be 7 wins now. We are 7-1, and that is going to end today's draft. Let's take a last look at the deck, talk about our over and under performers. Definitely had a rocky start. We showed off all of the flaws of our deck and flaws of the archetype in general in the first 2 or 3 games, and that is that we are pretty draw dependent. We are a 5-colored deck. If we hit our splash cards without the sources for them, that's pretty bad. We're just down cards in that game, and that did happen. I think at the game we lost, we had a Niall and a Miria's Outrider sitting in our hands. We could also have awkward mana in our opening hands. That happened quite a bit. I think we mulliganed in all 3 of our first 3 games, and we mulliganed down to 5 in one of our games. So those are really the flaws of this kind of deck when you don't get excellent mana fixing, which we got some good mana fixing in terms of non-land cards, but for the lands, you would definitely prefer to have a bit more non-basics than this. Just 4 non-basics in a domain deck is certainly less than I like to have. I like to be at like, I mean, I'm super greedy. I like to be at like 8 to 10, but we certainly didn't draft them particularly high today because I got really excited about stuff like Niells and Techiovas and Outriders and all that. So I think I should have taken some of the non-basics a little more highly, but the deck still obviously played out quite well. I will certainly take a 7-win run here. And we showed off all of the kind of powerful elements of the deck as well. We got several Miria's Outrider kills off of playing them, picking them back up with Bone Rattles and Urborg repossessions. Probably biggest overperformer of the day goes to Urborg repossession, because not only did we get incredible value off of this card multiple times and win the game off of it multiple times, either by replaying a Miria's Outrider, picking up 2 Mossbeard Ancients in that one game, but even in like the one game we lost, it was like our one way to get back into the game. We were like, what's in our deck that could get us out of this? It's just the 2 Urborg repossessions. If we draw one of our 2 Urborg repossessions, all of a sudden, this is still a game of Magic. Like, this card is ridiculous. Not only that, but our it was kind of an overperformer for some of our opponents as well. It's some really scary things. with opponents picking up like a Wingmantle Chaplain and a Bortuk Bone Rattle with it, stuff like that. So big shout out to Urborg Repossession. Deceptively scary card. Deceptively scary stuff. For the biggest underperformer, that probably goes to Flurfur's Vine Wall. I don't remember what I took it over, but I know it was in a pack with some other pretty solid stuff. And I think I might have preferred to just take one of those solid cards. If we were in a position where we'd taken more dual lands and then taken a stronger card than Vine Wall, I think our deck would have been a bit better. Not that Vine Wall is a bad card, it certainly does work in this archetype, but we had that one game where it showed off its pretty massive flaw, which is that if you're a deck like this, where you're running Scout the Wilderness, Weatherseed Treaty style cards, to where you're running just like a single red source, a single blue source kind of thing, then if you Vine Wall and you hit multiple colors that you only have one source of, tucking away one of those colors to the bottom means that you have two just completely dead draws. Like we had two Outriders with a mountain on the literal bottom of our deck. And I guess it's still also a bit of variance to that, because it's not like the mountain is the only red source. We still had a Scout the Wilderness and a Weatherseed Treaty we could have drawn into instead. And those would have picked up the mountain from the bottom of our deck, but it still is definitely awkward when Vine Wall tucks away the right color of mana. I guess that's more of just a mental thing, just an emotional damage kind of thing, than actually making it super bad, because I guess it's just pure random what you're going to hit. Sometimes it's going to hit stuff you don't want to draw into, and then it's like, boom, oh, look at all that extra value. I didn't want to draw any of these 6 cards, so I don't know. I don't have anything that I really, really hated, so I think it still goes on the underperformer stack. So very, very solid draft overall. That was better than I thought we were going to do after the first couple of games, where we were drawing some awkward mana, because I definitely think our mana base is a bit awkward. But wrap it all up with some great luck in the end. Get our 7-win run, our 950 gems, and our 2 packs of Dominaria United. But that is going to end today's video. As always, I'd like to thank my patrons and YouTube members for their support, as well as you for watching the video. If you're interested in seeing more videos like this, you can always like, comment, and subscribe to tell the YouTube algorithm to send you some more in your recommended feed. If you'd like to catch me live, you can check out the Twitch channel in the link in the description below. And if you'd like to support the channel directly, you can check out the Patreon link or the join button below. And other than that, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.